Though I like bowling sometimes. It's it's just I don't know. You just I don't
Back when
know.
I was in high school, I took a couple of extra gym classes. I wasn't the smartest kid, so I would often use my elective credits to just take as many easy classes as I could, and gym was the easiest one. One of the gym classes that I was in was during my second period of the day. It was spring semester, but I remember it was early on and there was still a lot of snow on the ground. So for the entire week for this class, we took a field trip to a nearby bowling alley. We would go there every day, and the bowling place was less than a mile away from the school, so it was really quick and easy for us to go there every day and return before our next class. I think the school must have had some sort of deal with the bowling alley though, because when we got there and went inside, we saw that it was not all that nice. It just looked really old and outdated, and they didn't really have anything other than bowling lanes, like no food and no arcade games. It was basically just bowling. The place also had a smell that you get when you enter really old buildings. I remember the other kids in the class would make jokes about the place. But for me personally, I knew it wasn't the nicest place, but it was still a working bowling alley, and I felt lucky to bowl for free during school hours, and I think everyone else felt the same. At the beginning of that week, the teacher taught us a few things about bowling, and then basically let us bowl for the rest of the week. Each day we would bowl 3 games in smaller groups, so all the lanes were filled out, and it would take up most of the class period. On the last day of the week that we were there, which was Friday, my group got done with our games early. The group was me and 4 other people, and one of the people in my group was my good friend Jake. When we were done, Jake and I were talking, and we wandered off just a bit. We walked towards the back of the bowling alley on the side where there was a walkway. It was on the very far side of the bowling alley leading to the end of the lanes. We walked down to a spot with a door where you could access behind the bowling lanes for maintenance and repair and things like that.
Okay.
The door was already open a crack, and out of curiosity I looked inside. It was pretty interesting to see the back area behind the bowling lanes. I was amazed at what I was seeing, but after only a few seconds, my eyes were drawn to something else that was back there. I saw just about 10 feet away around a little corner, there was a man halfway peeking around. He had really long hair and a long beard. At first, I wasn't sure if he worked there or something, but the way he was laying on the floor and wearing baggy old clothes made me think that he didn't. Jake noticed him, and at about the same time I did, started to walk away. It creeped me out and I turned to leave as well. Just then, I was tapped on the shoulder by someone who worked there. It startled me, and as I turned around, they asked what Jake and I were doing. We alerted them that there was a man behind the lanes, and he seemed like a homeless guy. They told us that we were not supposed to be back there and we had to leave. Then they said that there was nobody back there at all. We watched as the guy who worked there went behind the lanes to look around. When he looked though, the old homeless guy wasn't there. I watched him walk all the way up and down and look behind the corner where he had been, and I just didn't understand it. He had been there for sure, and there were no other doors to leave. The guy who worked there then went back over to us and told us to leave. I remember he then went over and talked with our teacher, and our whole class had to go back to the school. I never did go back to that bowling alley, and every time I think about it, I wonder what exactly happened that day.
The guy that went, the guy that did, I guess the employee that tapped him on the shoulder, he was in cahoots. He had to be. Because ain't no way. But then again, you had no business being back there. You was on some cluck shit. You got to cluck yourself up, to be honest. So he kind of saved you. But it's like, I don't know. It was just, the employee kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Pause. Right.
For some background on this story, I'm a 25-year-old female, and I'm an avid bowler. I used to be in a bowling league, but over the last few years, I've just bowled for fun with my friends, and even by myself. About a year ago, I was at a bowling alley not far from my apartment with my best friend Danielle. We bowl together sometimes, and on this night we bowled 4 games and we're on to our 5th. We had lost track of the time a bit, and Danielle realized that she had to leave. Once she left, I decided to stay and bowl for the both of us to finish the game because I enjoyed it. It was probably about 9 p.m. by this time, and the bowling alley was not too busy. I kept on bowling, and as I was almost done, I noticed a man coming over to the lane that I was at. He approached me and then complimented me on my bowling skills. Right away, the man just seemed really creepy. The way he was staring at me was just very off-putting. He mentioned he had been watching me bowl and wanted to know how I got so good at it.
Okay. First of all, okay, you want to learn how I got so good. First of all, it starts off with me being 6 miles away from you, and then you finding somebody else to teach you how to bowl on some cluck shit. Dead ass. I'm tired of these people noticing these red flags, noticing these sus flags, cluck flags, all the flags, and not doing nothing about it. What is that? Wow, that was a baby roach. Okay. Yeah, I'm tired of people just missing all these flags and not doing nothing about it. Like, as soon as it happens. You just say, basically in a nutshell, that you sus as hell and you cluck is, I'm getting cluck vibes from you. That's what you just said. But you're still holding conversations with them. When in reality, you should have said, you bowling. Dice. Bow roll. He comes up on the left of you. You're sus! You're sus. You're clucked. You're in-cahoots. Back the hell up. Just, move. I'm gonna grab your balls. I'm gonna pop them. Ouch.
I very briefly talked to him and then told him that I had better finish. He asked me why I was bowling all by myself and then asked to join me, but I told him no thanks, I was almost done and then I had to be getting home. The man seemed disappointed and then walked away.
Okay.
I finished bowling and was done about 10 minutes later. As I was going to leave, I noticed that the same man that had talked to me before was just kind of standing by the doorway looking around. I had a bad feeling, so I walked over to the other end of the bowling alley. I looked around for an exit, and luckily they had a back door which not many people used, so I decided to exit there. I was able to make it to my car without the man following me or anything like that. Overall, the guy just gave me a really bad feeling. It seemed like a creep. But beyond that, I forgot all about the experience. However, several months later, I happened to be watching the news, which is something that I rarely do. I was kind of half paying attention and half on my phone when suddenly I noticed a photo of a man on the screen. It struck me when I saw it, and I recognized it to be the man from the bowling alley. I learned on the news that he had been caught after he followed a woman home and attempted to break into her house.
Jesus.
I got the chills as I heard this and realized that quite possibly he was planning to do the same to me that night at the bowling alley. I'm really glad I left out the back door instead of the front. This happened about 5 years ago. I was on a road trip with my friend Justin. We were traveling back home from a convention in a city about 8 hours away from the city where we lived. We drove home, but about halfway through the trip, with about 4 hours left to go, a really bad snowstorm started to hit. With it being nighttime, we decided to find a hotel and be safe, instead of trying to power through it. It was only about 7 p.m. when we checked into the closest decent hotel that we could find. And once we were there, Justin suggested that we see if there was anything to do close by. And when I say close by, I mean within just about a walking distance, because we didn't want to have to drive out in that weather. When we looked, we saw that there was a bowling alley right down the street. We both left out into the blizzard to go to the bowling alley. It seemed like a fun thing to do for a few hours while we were stranded in the city for the night. When we arrived at the bowling alley, we couldn't tell if it was open or not. There weren't really many cars in the parking lot or visible lights on, but we figured not many people were there due to the snowstorm. Justin tried the door, and sure enough it was unlocked, so we went inside to check it out. As soon as we got inside, we could see that it wasn't the nicest of bowling alleys. It seemed sort of old and nobody else was there at all. Some of the lights were on and others were off. It was an eerie feeling overall. We looked to the counter, but nobody was behind it. The place had to be closed, but why was the door left unlocked? We wandered around a little bit out of curiosity. The place definitely seemed to be closed, so we figured we should probably just leave. But then we heard some noise coming from a back room behind the counter. I thought maybe someone was working after all. I walked over to the counter to see if there was anybody there. But as I got closer, I noticed there was a door behind that was open, leading to another room. I looked in and saw inside the room around the corner there were about 5 men who were sitting at a table.
Oh my God.
They looked really surprised to see me. One of them started to get up. None of the men appeared to work at the bowling alley, and I got a strong urge to leave. I kind of backed away, and then I quickly walked over to Justin and said, "Let's go." He followed, and we both left the building at a rather fast pace. We ran in the snow all the way back to our hotel and got inside. We didn't know who those men were or what they were doing, but the next days we were finally able to get back on the road and drive home. We noticed a car seemed to be following us. No matter what we did, the car would appear behind us. At times, we would seem to lose it, and we wouldn't see it for a while, but it would always return. We got home safely, but the next day as I was driving, I noticed that same car following me as well. It followed me around that day, but after that day, I never saw it again, and beyond that, nothing else happened. I just wonder sometimes if those two things were linked, and who it was who followed us.
I'm gonna need for these people to like be blunt about the suckness that's going on. You know, if you notice a red flag, if you sense a red flag, you know, if you see some cluck shit going on, or it's about to happen, or you feel like it's about to happen, do something about it. Say something. When I say do something about it, I mean haul ass. Say something, you know? Talk about something. Hey man, hey! You suck as shit! You cluck as shit! Get the back off! Back the hell up! Something like that. You know? Or like it just really irritates me when it's as clear as day somebody is on some cluck shit and you just let it go over your head, or you just let it, like, you don't think much of it until it's either almost too late or it's too late. And check your surroundings, please. And if you being followed, or you feel like you being followed, you better hope and pray you got enough gas. Just saying. Keep cool, keep classy, and I love you. Stay happy, my family.